part 2 of this video, we're going to be putting on the fleur-de-lis and we're going to be putting on the lions. And in order to achieve that, we need to do the following. So the process is that I stand here and with a surgical blade here, I'm going to very accurately remove any areas of paper that don't retain to the exact image. I then use a black marker pen to draw around this edge, and the reason that I want to draw around it is because when I then photocopy that onto a sheet of masking paper which has got a self-adhesive back, it means I've got a very defined edge to then cut all the way around, which then leaves me in this situation. And once we get to this stage and we very accurately cut around this very defined black edge, what it means is that we can now lift off the positive and be left with this nice negative. And because this paper is masking paper with a sticky back, you see here, that's sticky, it means the next thing that we can do is lay out where we want our lions to go. Now in reality, obviously I'm going to have 3 lions. There's going to be another lion there and there's going to be another lion there, but for the purpose of explaining this situation, I can stick this with a bit of double-sided sticky tape, which means that once that's placed in exactly the right position, I can lay the negative until that superimposes exactly over the positive, something like that. And once that has been achieved, I can then stick this edge down with a piece of masking tape, low-tack masking tape, which means that I can then fold this all the way back. Then I can remove this, and then I can then peel off this backing and then fold this back over, and then once I've folded that back over, I then know that the masking is in exactly the right place, which means that I can cover this in size, and then over the top of this I can then gold leaf this, safe in the knowledge that when this is then removed, I'll have the perfect shape of the lion, and it means that I'm going to get consistent lions that all look exactly the same. With regards to making the faces all look the same, that's another process, and I'm going to get effectively like carbon paper, and I'll copy out the face, and then I will carbon paper on over the top of this, because effectively, if you think about it, all I'm going to see is that. I can then, after this has been gold leafed, I can then carbon paper on the outline of the face so I know where to paint, and then I can paint the toes on, and I can paint the tongue and the eyes and all the rest of it. So in preparation for photocopying, I need to ascertain which is the correct side. So I can peel that back just a little bit, and that tells me that's the face, and I can see that all three of those sheets are face sheets. So I'm just going to write face on there. And then in the top left hand corner here, what I want to do is draw a very small picture of the shield itself. And then I'm going to put a representation of exactly where it is that that line is going to go. And so this is going to be A. And that's in the middle. That's going to be B. And that's going to be right down the bottom, and that's going to be C. So that when I photocopy, I'm photocopying onto the right pieces of paper. And now that I have the photocopy with its sticky adhesive face like this, and because we have drawn a nice black line around this, it means that we get a very, very accurate copy, and it's easier for me with this scalpel to now go around and cut this out. So I now have to cut out the A, the B and the C. So I've decided to change the bottom line, and my main reason for doing so was to make sure that that head was at the same angle as the head above it. And I've also thickened the arm and sort of changed his tummy a little bit, and I've also shortened the tail where it joins on here. The actual rest of the tail is exactly the same, and I wanted to make it level, so at least when you look at them they're all the same level. And another thing that I looked at was on this one here, if I compare the tummy of that lion to the tummy of that lion, I feel as if that stomach should kind of bulge out here and then go in a bit thicker. The second lion, the one where I said the tummy needs to be thicker, and you can see where I have drawn on to it there. Now, because effectively this isn't the bit that matters, what matters is actually this section underneath it. So I could cut that little section out there, and that would give the appearance of thickening that tummy and taking it off to a thinner tummy, which is, in my opinion, going to match better, which has got that kind of, you know, like I suppose its breastplate there. So I was ready to print that one off. That was going to be the original lion, and one of the things about this that I didn't like is that this section here Well, I'd have to stick that on independently because, as you can see, that's like a little island. It's not accessible by anything else. And also the angle of the head is too vertical. So if I slide across to this one here, can you see that one there? If I jump straight back to the other one, and then jump back. So you can see on that one how the head's at a different angle. The other one is more of a vertical head, and that's more at an angle, matching the rest of it. And I've shortened this section of the tail, and now because there is access here, it means the whole thing will stick as one. So I think it's going to be better. I've also thickened where this joins here. So if you look at that front paw there and then compare it to this one, you can see that section there. That to me just didn't look right. So time to cut out this one and stick it on. So now that I'm pretty happy with what I'm going to be doing with the lions, and they're all cut out, the next job is to concentrate on the fleur-de-lis. And the fleur-de-lis there are identical in size to the fleur-de-lis there. Obviously the spacing can afford to be slightly more generous than it can be there, but nevertheless they are the same. So as you look at the fleur-de-lis a bit closer, what I want to do with those is try and give them a little bit more detail. So that's what I'm going to copy next. And if you think about it, I've only got to do one, and once I've got one, it's just a repetition of that because they're all the same. This is the master fleur-de-lis that I cut out and then copied that you have subsequently seen on the shield. And what I want to do is I want for there to be more definition here. I want there to be more definition so that you can see more of a kind of an independent line between these two things. So this one is dimensionally no real different to that one there. The only difference being is that this one has been cut out, I think, with a little bit more finesse. And can you see these? Can you see the way that you see these kind of this ingresses in more here than it does here? Now, if I turn them over, this one has been shaded, and this one is unshaded. And the reason that I wanted to leave them unshaded was because apart from the fact that I've drawn this kind of, I suppose, this little collar that goes across here, that's how they are going to appear. Now, the only difference really between these two things is that this is probably slightly more symmetrical than that one is. And as I say, there's a little bit more detail, as in the edges are sharper, because that was originally probably cut out with a pair of scissors. And that there is a bit of a deeper ingress into that point there as opposed to there. So what I might do is I'm just going to have a look and see how this one fares, and then if I really like this one, which I think I do, I think it's probably a little bit more elegant in shape. I mean, they're very close, but it is slightly different. It's probably slightly more bulbous with a slightly sharper peak at the top. And also I've changed the angle of this whereas the angle of that one is flat, the angle of that one is slightly down. And so, yeah, we'll see how it looks. Slight change of plan. When I look at the bottom of this, I want that to be more bulbous. I want that to be fatter, a little bit like that one is there. So I think I'm going to have another go at it. The top of it I'm happy with, but the bottom section I want that to be more bulbous and then come down to a sort of sexier point. So let's see if I can't do it better again. So this is the new one that I've cut out, and I wanted to give it a little bit of a more of a bulbous look down the bottom there. I just think it'll make it look a little bit more elegant, really. That being a bit more bulbous, maybe that being a little bit sharper, and trying to make these cuts go deeper. So I think that's the one I'm probably going to settle on. I definitely prefer the look of that to that. That looks better. You can see, I mean, there's no shading on that whatsoever, but the bottom one there is the one that we've reshaped. So I think that's the one I'm going to settle on. So now that I've decided on that shape and I've gone round it in black pen, I can then take that upstairs and photocopy it, and I'll probably get at least 2 on a sheet. I only need 6 of these things, and I'll know exactly where to cut out. But I think that's gonna look good. I'm gonna give it one final check to compare it to the other ones. So that's all of the positives laid out. And they will appear a little bit bigger because if you think as you get closer to it, you can see that the black outline, so it might give the appearance that they'll be a little bit smaller. Those are the lines, they're all very slightly different. That's the one where I added a bit to the belly. That's the one where I changed the angle. And actually I've decided to put some eye detail in there just to practice how I'm going to paint the eyes. I've noticed that if I make the eyes kind of like rectangular, they look a bit more frightening. But that is, I would say, getting close to ready for gold leaf. That's all the masking done. Those are all the positives. and all the negatives are sitting over there.